Welcome to Mobify Roadmap Update. In April 2019, we're going to talk to you as a customer about our upcoming front-end as a service update to our platform. So if you are an existing Mobify customer, this is the on-demand webinar for you. So I am Drew Lau. I am our VP of Product, and today we're going to cover a bit of a short agenda about what we learned from our progressive web app journey over the last couple of years working with customers such as yourself. We're also going to talk about what is a front-end as a service, as this is a new concept that we are eager to share with our customer base. We're going to cover some of the key benefits of why this would be of interest to our customers. And if you are interested, we will cover shortly what a potential upgrade path would look like from your existing progressive web app installation. So today's goals, I do want to educate yourself and your team on the option to expand your current mobile progressive web app experience to desktop and tablet with three key benefits in mind. So first one is consistent experiences. We have seen our progressive web apps on mobile be cited as a best-in-class experience, and we have a lot of the business metrics and uplift to revenue to show what difference that makes. And we are interested in showing how you can bring that experience on your mobile to all your other screen sizes, resulting in a boost to performance in SEO. Second key benefit we're going to talk about is an increase to team agility. So we want to remove barriers to agility by introducing a single code base for your front end and just introducing also the concept of decoupled architecture. This is a common comment from our customer base is we don't want to have to work with a mobile and desktop code base separately. So this is an approach that lets you unify those two now. And finally, as a third benefit pillar, we're looking to reduce operational expenditures for certain organizations who are looking at operating expenditures. There is a chance to offload some of your last mile delivery and scalability to Mobify such that you can reduce your overall footprint of operating some of your other e-commerce related systems. So that's the goal for today, is to make sure we arm you with these three key benefits so that you can further a discussion within your teams as needed. So a couple key learnings. So from rolling out progressive web apps with a variety of our customers, we have unleashed really a high performing experience for mobile. We're very happy with the results. We have seen uplifts in revenue anywhere from 8 to 30% across our customers who have rolled out progressive web apps. And a lot of this has been hinged on something that we've been calling performant design and what we've been trying to advocate for. All right, so with performant design, one of the key things we want to focus on from a shopper benefit point of view is really a fast experience. In this case, we have offered both accelerated mobile pages and progressive web apps to really ensure pages that load instantly, but also pages that transition as quick as possible. So you have a seamless experience that is at the start of your journey and throughout the rest of the shopper journey itself. We also want to promote experiences that feels fast. So any interaction with your web application, whether that is scrolling or transitioning through pages, we want the animations and scrolling and feedback to be silky smooth. And we also just want to make sure the shopper is able to sense that the application is responding immediately to the touch. So anything that feels more like a native app experience is what we're trying to get to. We also want to focus on offering effortless interactions. So whether that's getting through checkout faster via one-tap payment methods, or through making other experiences such as pin navigation headers, or using native capabilities such as native share capabilities. We want the experience to be as enjoyable and effortless as possible. We also want to promote offering immersive experiences. So there are a bunch of user experience tips such as focusing search and focusing on cart comparisons and driving navigation or exposing navigation drive engagement. These are all examples of how to make the experience more immersive using web technologies, but also just making it feel like a native app itself. We also want to focus on making sure performance design is available no matter the network. So example that we always cite here is what the Starbucks team has done. So in this case, if you are on a slower device or you're looking at intermittent networks, we still want you to be able to complete core functions of your journey, whether that's in this case pulling up your payment details to use in store, or looking at previous products that you've viewed as part of your shopper journey, even though you have now slipped out of a connection. That is still part of performance design. And finally, performance design is for everyone. Accessibility is a key focus for us. We want to make sure everyone has a great experience. And so conforming to minimum tap sizes, font sizes, and really just looking at color contrast for accessibility guidelines. We want to make sure a site is usable and really a pleasure to use, regardless of any shopper abilities. So that was what makes a progressive web app experience great, looking at performance design. And the other thing that we noticed as part of this journey is really our customers with the existing progressive web app deployed has enabled agility with a bunch of frequent mobile UX enhancements. So in this case, what we did notice is when we looked at the data is our PDA customers tend to deploy changes more frequently, and that's overall a good thing. We were seeing that a lot of our customers are deploying changes to the user experience on the mobile side on average 2 times per week, which is about 5 times more frequent than they would typically make changes on the desktop side. So this is overall a good thing. It unlocks the ability to actually push out changes faster or able to experiment more. And really, it just removes technology as a barrier to just going faster if you want to fine tune how your team operates. So one of our goals was to explore what that could mean for your desktop experience and not just your mobile experience. So taking those 2 key learnings about really agility and performance design, what we recognized was amazing digital experiences generally just drive top line growth. So it doesn't matter if it's on mobile or tablet or desktop. The more immersive experiences you could build, the faster performance you could focus on, the more personalization you could build in there, and better UX you can actually deploy out to your shoppers via more frequent changes, generally results in higher brand equity, improved search engine optimization rankings, and translates really nicely into just more revenue. So the problem about this is keeping up with the pace of digital experience technology is just accelerating, just going faster and faster. So if you think about what you've experienced over the last couple of years, working with the digital side of things, we've progressed from static catalogs to kind of web-based catalogs on desktop to desktop e-commerce, moving over to responsive e-commerce, the emergence of smartphones and native apps, to the web coming back and addressing the same experience of native apps with progressive web apps and AMP, and finally starting to see different modalities such as voice and other technologies emerging, like chat and so on. And each of these progressions is a leap in technology, which comes with a matching leap in shopper expectations. And what's challenging for teams now is the pace of these leaps, whether it's in technology or shopper expectations, are just becoming more and more frequent. So it's becoming harder and harder for teams to catch up. How teams will tend to keep up with these changes in technologies or shopper expectations is to fall into a cycle. So you would, as an e-commerce leader, you'd be looking at either you have to re-platform. So you would go take your existing e-commerce platform, your existing content management platform, and just replace it with something newer. And with that new re-platform, you may get a newer front-end experience. But each of these re-platforms is a bit of a rebuild. They're generally risky. They require costly reorg, costly projects, and just retraining of your team. So with the typical re-platform cycle, that doesn't happen very often. The other alternative is to just revamp what you have. So you would squeeze more out of what you have by layering on more point solutions, and you just be redesigning the experience and just shifting generally pixels around. And this just becomes an endless cycle. When you do one of these 2 things every year, every 2 years, and you just end up with a large backlog of just more things you want to do. So with a re-platform or revamp, you're just adding more complexity to your platform, and that generally will just slow organizations to a crawl. And what we did see is just more and more customers saying, I have this endless list of projects and wish list items I want to get to, and I just can't do it across all my experiences. So what we want to do is just promote that this is the time to just break that cycle, that endless revamp or replatform cycle. We can break that cycle and move you to a new paradigm. And really, what we're trying to do is convince our customers to go also start looking at the future and introduce a headless architecture. So one of the things that we're focused on as a headless architecture is promoting really some of the benefits here. So we want to see our customers enable front-end innovation to move faster than things that happen on the back end. So for example, with web technologies, you are seeing a lot of new things being enabled on the front end with the web, but that definitely is going faster than, say, things you may want to change in your back end around order management or master data management systems. These things change at different paces, and we want to actually go see them change at different paces. So we need to find an architecture that will adapt to that. The second part is looking at future-proofing all your hard-fought wins and customer experience investments. Everything your teams have done around all the user testing, all the user research, all the multivariate testing about what works best for checkout and what works best for search. Every time you re-platform or revamp, you end up tossing out those learnings and kind of relearning those things the hard way. So we want to make sure you keep everything that you gain from a knowledge perspective and just keep using that in the future. Third point is around activating the full value of your CMS and e-commerce system. So traditionally, you would have to funnel CMS and content through e-commerce or vice versa. In this new approach, we're promoting that you should line up those systems side by side so you get the full value of them. And finally, we want to unlock agility by limiting the need for heavy redeploys. So if you're just trying to make changes to your front end, there's a lot of risk involved in redeploying your whole e-commerce or CMS stack. And we want to promote a new approach where you can de-risk a bunch of that and just go faster because of the fact you're redeploying only what you need to. So this headless commerce architecture isn't a new concept. This comes from Gartner. They published this back in September 2017, where they highlighted 3 approaches to digital commerce platform architecture. In this mode, typically most of the e-commerce installations these days are commerce-led architectures, in which case the commerce system is delivering the experience to the shopper. Over the last couple of years, we've seen a trend towards experience-led architectures where you would put a web CMS or a digital experience platform on top of commerce platform or commerce engine and combine the two to build really a joint solution that lets you deliver the experience through the DXP or CMS system. The emerging trend that Gartner highlighted is an API-oriented approach where you would take the commerce system, the content systems, and put them side by side in the back end and expose them via APIs, usually by building a custom front end to build that shopper experience and deliver that to the shopper. So that is the approach that we're advocating for and the one that will unlock the most agility and potential for your teams. But a lot of companies haven't moved towards that yet. And that's because building a custom headless front end introduces a lot of complexities. First is you have to learn and build with next generation web technologies. In this case, you would have to have your team or your partner team learn about all the new things about PWAs, progressive web apps, and then start building that out. And that is a learning experience or a very iterative experience, especially if you're starting from scratch. You would then learn how to build and maintain this progressive web app experience, usually by setting up custom hosting environments and DevOps practices. And you would need a strong DevOps team or site reliability engineering team just to keep the system up and running. So definitely some retailers have the team sizes and skill sets to do this, but other companies are looking to actually not address this problem internally. Finally, as you expand out to other experiences where your shopper wants to go, whether that's AMP or native apps, you're then maintaining and synchronizing multiple code bases, and they're separated, so there's a lot of duplicate work involved in keeping everything up to date with your most recent customer experience that you want to deploy to all the different experiences out there. As you keep going forward, you then have to have each of these experiences integrate with your backend systems, and you end up maintaining duplicate integrations. And that gets even more complicated in future as you add in future touch points, whichever new technology emerges next and gains adoption by shoppers. That's just going to complicate the amount of integration, the amount of duplications in the systems. So that in general is why not too many companies in the retail space have decided to build their own custom headless front ends. There certainly are a few where they've ramped up fairly large teams to do this. But in this case, we are trying to promote that there is a better way to do this. So with this, we're introducing our front end as a service, as a concept to show a better way. And with this, we expect three things. One is a single unified front end experience across all your screens. And this is great for multi-brand, multi-region deployments. We want to promote a flexible environment that gives you the freedom to build what would be equivalent to a custom solution without having to start from scratch. So definitely technology teams want to have something custom. You can choose the technology you want. You can not feel constrained by what you have chosen. We want to actually appeal to that, definitely. And finally, we want to have a front end that's future-proof from emerging digital experience technologies. So as new touch points emerge, as you decide to switch out various parts of your back end, as you migrate to, say, microservices, or if you go through a bunch of organizational changes, that front end, that experience to the shopper should stay the same, and it shouldn't have to be changed up just because something has changed on the back end or something that's changed within your organization itself. So what we're talking about here is really a better and faster path to amazing digital experiences with a headless architecture. So Mobify itself is now positioning as a front end as a service where we are one single solution provide all experiences to the front end via one single platform and one single set of integrations. So with that comes the benefit of scaling and operating an e-commerce system in a more simpler way using just really the modern way to deploy things on the web. If you look at what Mobify offers, the key thing that is new is we now have what we call an application delivery network added to our platform. In this case, this is a scalable enterprise-grade cloud solution where you can deploy, host, and manage all high-performing front-end apps. So this is both progressive web apps and cellular mobile pages, plus the parts of the native apps that are driven off of really our Mobify cloud. In this case, this is probably the newest part for our customers. In the past, we've mainly been able to deliver applications off our content delivery network. In this case, though, we are running actual systems. In this case, we are building these off serverless technologies that let you auto scale this globally. So this definitely is a different take to traditional ways to scale and build e-commerce systems. The second thing that is now part of our platform is a single set of developer tools that lets technology teams build, test, and deploy amazing shopper experiences. And in this case, we have different parts of our developer tools that let you build progressive web apps, accelerate mobile pages, native apps, really on one single code base. And finally, we have our integration architecture. We are promoting an API-friendly architecture that really lets you integrate e-commerce, CMS systems, personalization, analytics, third-party systems, and really lets teams easily swap or remove any backend system. So you really only have to do this integration once, and then it is able to be added into any experience you've built into our application delivery network via our developer tools. So you don't have to manage a huge, complex web of point-to-point integrations. You now have one single place where integrations flow into all your shopper experiences there. So Mobify's front-end service is now, as we showed those three major components. And really, I want to highlight some of the key differences from what you are used to. So if you have already deployed a mobile progressive web app, or you're in the middle of that using Mobify, really, there are a couple things that are just different now. One is with this new front end as a service, we are having experiences now scale responsibly to desktop and tablet screen sizes. So this is now naturally built into our system. We also are adding in what we call server-side rendering into our application delivery network of our PWS, and this results in a pretty significant boost in performance and SEO. We are removing the need to use the Mobify JavaScript tag for integration. For the technical side of the audience, that is as a difference in the way you deploy our technologies. And finally, with this, we really get to optimize the last mile, delivering a performance experience to all screens. So I'm going to dive into these 4 points a little bit, just so you can understand some of the key differences and what to expect with this new front-end as a service offering. First thing is scaling responsibly. If you have built out a progressive web app with Mobify, you have already used our UI kit and our set of components. So really what has happened here is our components have been scaled out so that they have different components and how components are displayed based on your screen size. And so this is available automatically by using our components. So if you're looking at building PWA across all screen sizes, you are now supported by for doing this by using just the same components and UI kit that you're used to. Secondly, performance impacts. So the main difference, as I mentioned, is we have added a server-side rendering aspect to our progressive web apps. Traditionally, in the past, our PWAs have been client-side only, which has had some limitations to how quickly you can actually have initial page loads. So our PWAs are great for subsequent page loads. In this case, we've tackled initial page load performance by getting to a set of page loads, which can happen in this case, as a good example, of a really quick kind of experience for shoppers. So this is using the Lighthouse tool, which you may be familiar with, which is something that Chrome and Google teams have put together that measure the quality of a PWA. In this case, we can see that we're scoring really high on performance, almost at 100. And that means all the performance metrics that compose this, this performance score around first contentful paint and speed index, time to interactive, all these other metrics are all green. That means that these performance metrics are some of the best in the, on the web right now. And so this is what we expect all new projects to start with. And so you and your development team will start at a great starting point for any progressive web app you try to build by having the server-side rendered component in place by default. So this is good because this will positively impact your search engine optimization. About a year ago in 2018, the Google team has switched to mobile-first indexing for their search engine, and they've actually added in a speed update, which will mean page speed is now a ranking factor for your page ranks, which means the more performant experiences, the quicker page load times you can promote. And the promoting and having that on mobile and desktop will mean that your page ranks, your SEO will perform better overall. So this is the side benefit of having ability to add server-side rendering to the mix, is that you will get a boost to your organic traffic. So in general, we now have a Mobify platform which now spans mobile to desktop with our progressive web apps. We still have AMP addressing the mobile side, and we still have iOS and Android applications on the native side, and now we're seen as an overall front end of the service. We still use the same integrations into leading e-commerce platforms and content management systems, but now instead of just being on the mobile side, we now span all these different touch points and screen sizes. So with this, you get a couple deployment options. We are still keeping the mobile progressive web app option if you're still using our Mobify tag to integrate with the client side technologies. That still exists. We still offer that. We don't plan on removing that anytime soon. So you should feel confident that you can still use your existing PWA deployment. What has changed is though, we now offer two different deployment options with the server-side rendering. One is using what we call a proxy. So in this case, you can deploy a PWA across mobile to desktop, but you can keep your approach to parsing HTML to build a PWA. And this is for customers who haven't fully built out a set of APIs to integrate with their PWA, in which case then you may want to use this as a transitionary phase as part of your API transformation initiatives. If you are already undergoing an API project and you have APIs fully available, then you could go with the right side option, which is server-side rendered PWAs with just APIs. You skip the proxy option, and this will let you fully adopt the decoupled kind of headless API-driven architecture, and then you will be fully set up for the future as you start looking at the benefits of a headless architecture in itself. So to summarize all that, we will still keep and still offer and still work on our mobile PWA, which is deployed through our JavaScript tag. We now have our front end as a service offering, which then has the proxy approach and the API only approach. Again, the front end service has the main benefits of better performing SEO due to server side rendering. We have HTTPS everywhere by default because we are serving the entire experience from desktop to mobile. We're able to optimize performance on mobile with initial page loads to be even faster with server-side rendering, and now we can optimize the desktop performance aspects by having a single code base running your entire front-end experience. So that is, from a technology point of view, the biggest benefit is a single code base instead of having to work with a dual code base. And from an operating cost perspective, we are now delivering the entire experience to the shopper, which means anytime a shopper hits your e-commerce site, that is coming through our content delivery network and our set of application developer delivery networks, which means we're incurring a lot of the costs to make your experience scale. So in the long run, that could mean you could reduce the deployment footprint of your e-commerce systems, and you could also reduce the footprint of your web-facing content delivery networks, which for certain customers may be an expensive operating expenditure. So there are some cost savings here that could justify a front-end as a service project to kind of roll that out. So that summarizes the differences. We've talked about some of the benefits. In this case, we're going to jump into a section around really some of the technical differences. So for anyone coming from the technical side, feel free to kind of dive into this section with us. If you're not from a technical background, you're welcome to fast forward a little bit and skip to the end of the section. But there's a couple small differences. So from a server-side rendering lifecycle, this is where things are a bit different. In the previous world, again, everything was client-side for our progressive web app, so you don't really have to worry about what can be rendered on server side and what you have to render on client side. In this case, we have a lifecycle where initially a shopper will come in and they'll get an unpersonalized experience. So this is the same experience you give to any shopper, which means we can cache that and serve that up. This is rendered server side, it's cached, and it gets delivered quickly to a shopper. So for example, if you go land on your given homepage, it would be kind of the app shell with the header, the footer, the navigation, and just the same kind of homepage you display to all shoppers. What happens next is we go through a hydration phase, which happens more on the client side within the browser. And this is where the PWA kind of boots up and turns into a running state, which case then we start personalizing things on top of that experience only on the shopper's browser. So things like looking at if they're logged in, how many items are in their carts, what kind of personalized banners we want to display, and you know, things that are again should be only shown to the shopper, happen client side and aren't within the cached content. So you know what happens here is we have to decide what should be displayed server side to all shoppers and what can be then personalized client side for a given individual shopper. So that is a bit of a difference in how a development team needs to think about this. And so what happens here from an architecture point of view is when a shopper comes in on a browser, they will hit our delivery network, our application delivery network. We will go, you know, to load and display assets, and we also will go then render things server side by contacting the underlying e-commerce and other backend systems, and that will deliver the initial experience. What happens on subsequent page loads as the shopper clicks through and accesses different parts of the PWA, we will then route all requests to the existing backend e-commerce system through a proxy, in which case then we can still leverage the same HTML parsing technologies that you may be using to deliver the PWA. We add in the proxy here because that will let you still make everything look like it's coming from a single origin, so we can skip some of the complexities about cross-origin problems. So for a given deployment that doesn't have APIs available, this is the proxy-based architecture you would expect to have in place. And what we're trying to promote is moving more and more customers to an API-based approach, which will then simplify the architecture a little bit. So in this case, same structure. You would have your browser, shopper come in via browser. They would access our application delivery network and with server-side rendering and assets being kind of delivered by your cloud and talking to the e-commerce system, in this case, over APIs. Instead of having a proxy setup where we have to route calls through a proxy to simulate a single origin, we can make direct API calls to your backend system. So if you have the APIs available, the shoppers will be communicating directly with the APIs on the e-commerce system, and that just simplifies the architecture overall. So customer examples, what we have done is we have launched our first customer on this already, which is great. That will be validation of the system and that it scales. We're just collecting a lot of data on this initial deployment. So Debenhams is a top 10 UK retailer. They are one of our customers that have been on this journey with us on the front end and progressive web apps since kind of late 2017. So with Debenhams, what we've done is we've started a journey with them on just launching their mobile PWA sites. We retired their native app because the progressive web app actually provided a very much equivalent functionality and reduced the overhead of having to maintain a native app. And then we expanded that through a tablet project. by adding in tablet PWA. We then spent a bunch of time optimizing due to the fact we could deploy more often, a lot of checkout improvements, and we started to experiment with new concepts like AMP and so on. A couple months ago, we decided to embark with them on a headless commerce journey where they would then expand the PWA to a desktop PWA and really have a unified front end running off of the front end as a service. So a good example of what that looks like is really a comparison. So you probably have seen a lot of these comparisons where on the left-hand side is the original responsive site. On the right-hand side was an early proof of concept we built to show the difference in potential customer experience. You'll see here is that as we go through the shopper experience of findability of how to find the product, you'll see that there is very much a progressive web app experience. You are transitioning through pages without having to reload full pages. You get really instant page transitions, you get skeletons being displayed, and you can complete adding to cart and finding a product really a lot faster than kind of the traditional responsive site, because you don't have to go reload the full page anymore, and you're able to take advantage of the faster initial page load times and the faster kind of subsequent page load time. So in this case, we're looking at about a 30% difference in how quickly a shopper can get through a core shopper journey. And that translates directly into boost of revenue altogether. So we will share more about that Debenhams front end as a service journey in the future as we publish more case studies and kind of talk more about that, that overall journey. So look forward to that in future. But really, if you are interested in this as a concept, if you're looking to refresh your front end experience and you're interested in using Mobify technologies to look at that from a desktop perspective, this is what an upgrade could possibly look like. So from an upgrade steps perspective, we would advocate talking to us and your system integrator to talk about how to plan an upgrade. So really, we're expecting 6 different phases to upgrade. One is to start planning for this. We'd be looking at expanding your PWA designs to all screens. We'd be planning a shift to APIs or by using a proxying type environment. And we'd be standing up these new environments within our Mobify cloud. Next thing to do would be upgrade your current PWA project to the latest Mobify Progressive Web App Software Development Kit. The recent versions have server-side rendering and the responsive techniques built in, so that requires an SDK upgrade on the way. How long that upgrade will take will depend on how frequently you've been able to consume our upgrades in the past. So if you're a more recent version, that's probably be a simpler upgrade cycle. From there, we're going to take your existing pages and all the components you have been leveraging and just expand them to all screens. And then we'd be adjusting the code to use server-side rendering. So what that looks like technically is we'd be looking at the code that renders anything to the front end and be splitting up so that this portion renders server-side and this portion renders client-side. And there's different APIs and flags that let you adjust for that. We would then migrate all third-party integrations to the PWA. In this case, if you have a bunch of desktop integrations to third parties that you haven't integrated yet to your mobile PWA, this would be the chance to do that. We'd go through a validation step in terms of validating your analytics look the same, that we have a boost in performance, and that your integrations are working as expected. And then we're going through a launch phase. So if you are launching a front end as a service with Mobify, there's really 2 options there. You could cut over via a domain name service migration, so a DNS migration, where you'd be doing really more of a hard cutover, or you'd be using your existing content delivery network to do really a traffic splitting or traffic shaping type launch, where you'd be soft launching the front end of service by shifting a percentage of traffic over to the new Mobify solution. Once that completes, then you could look at potentially turning off your web-facing CDN, saving those costs, and really just moving everything over to the Mobify system. So in summary, Mobify's new front end of the services will be available to you as a customer. When you do look at adopting this new product offering, you will get fast immersive shopping experiences. So this will let you launch fast immersive experiences and effortless interaction across all screens. That includes now desktop to mobile PWAs, AMP, and native apps. We'd be looking at more agility in that you now have a single front-end code base and a distinct layer separation. So your teams can now deploy user experience changes across mobile to desktop a lot faster, keep up with what's changing on the website, and really just future-proof your overall customer experience. And finally, this is an enterprise-grade solution We've seen that this has launched for a top 10 retailer in the UK with Debenhams. So this is a proven solution that auto scales and optimizes performance globally. We support the same integrations with enterprise level e-commerce and content management systems. And this is still the same world-class partner network that we have. So if you're looking at using one of our system integrator partners to roll this out, they will have gone through extensive training and onboarding to learn the new differences in what front-end as a service project looks like versus mobile PWA. So if you are interested in learning more, again, thank you for watching. We would then recommend you go reach out to your customer success manager, and they can walk you through the next steps of digging further into this as a potential project in the future for you. Thank you for spending the time with us, and we look forward to discussing future front-end as a service projects.